So the Reggae Boys might not be over in Qatar, but we have our own representative in Jamaican-born Nesta McGregor. Nesta, how are you? How are things in Doha?
Yeah, I'm good. And can I just say, it's like just gone past 3 o'clock in Doha. It is about 30 degrees, but I'm inside
Yeah.
in my hotel room with the AC on high, which is why I'm wearing this jumper type thing. But no, all is good. I've been in Doha now for about maybe 2.5 weeks. Definitely was quiet at first, but the tournament, after all the shot results and everything else, it feels like I'm in the mid-level World Cup now. So yeah, all good.
And how does the heat compare to being on the island, or is it quite similar?
Do you know what? I don't know. So, long story short, I moved from Jamaica when I was 9 years of age. I don't know how I survived the heat for those first 9 years. And I booked to go back in April, and I don't know how I'm going to survive the heat again because I don't handle it well. The only way I can describe it is in Jamaica, sometimes you might get a breeze or some shade, but this is a desert. And when people say a desert, 50 years ago, these skyscrapers and these buildings, some of them weren't there, and there was rocks, sand, and dust. And sometimes when you open a door, it's like a hairdryer in your face. It's humid, it's hot. The games, luckily now that getting through, is starting at 7 and 10 p.m. at night. So it's a lot cooler. And all the stadiums have got AC, but it's the kind of place where you don't walk around in the daytime because the heat sucks all your energy out.
Mm. Yeah, and in addition to that as well, Nesta, I'm sure you'd remember 2002 was the last World Cup where we had a lot of surprises. France going out early, Argentina as well, Uruguay, Nigeria, even Croatia going out early. The surprises,
Mm.
the upsets. Are you enjoying all of the drama?
Look, if you love football and you love sport, the reason you love it is because you'd like to think anything can happen. If you turn up to any sporting event where you already know the result, then are you going to enjoy the action? So, I mean, it all started with Saudi Arabia and Argentina, didn't it? And Argentina, one of the favorites to win the tournament. No one saw that result coming. And for me, that was the day the World Cup began, because it was just like, okay, the football is going to do the talking now. The politics is very important, but it felt like the things on the pitch would be what we've been talking about. I was at Tunisia, France the other day. Tunisia 1-0 winners, and that was, I know it was France's, let's call it their B team, but still they might have been expected to beat Tunisia. Japan, Germany. I mean, where do you start? Japan, Spain. Yesterday, I was at the Germany Costa Rica game where they won, but I've never been in a stadium before where teams won a World Cup game and the atmosphere was so flat. It was just like dejection and tears and everything else. So I'm loving the upsets. It's the reason why I watch football, except when it's my team.
And off the field, how are things going in terms of fans being engaged in the fan zones, the food, the culture, everything? Do you feel like everyone is getting immersed in the culture?
Yeah, look, we can't escape that this is like a World Cup no other for so many reasons, Simon. We're talking about a Winter World Cup, albeit in a hot destination in the middle of a football season, let's say, and then all of that. Qatar getting the World Cup was hugely controversial. The football development here is it's not what it is in other nations that were competing for the bid. 7 of the 8 stadiums they've had to build since at a ridiculous cost. Well, not ridiculous for them, but World Cup normally costs 15 to 20 billion dollars. This has cost $200 billion. So that kind of just puts it into context. Then we have all the issues surrounding it. So, we have LGBT rights, migrant workers' rights, the role of women in the Middle East. So you've got all of that noise happening. And fans are being told, be respectful when you come to this country because you're entering knowing the rules. So follow them. I think maybe the biggest thing when we came was obviously 2 days before the tournament kicked off, the reversal of selling alcohol in stadiums. And for a lot of fans, it wasn't that the ban had been introduced. It was, you've had 10 years to plan this. Why is it taken 2 days before the tournament? But from what I've seen, and again, I know people watch the media and say there is a massive conspiracy. This is my experience from what I've seen. Fans have been massively respectful of the culture, and the Qatari police and security have been equally as respectful. So, I've seen fans with their t-shirts off running outside stadiums. I've seen them loud, boisterous on the Underground Network. I've seen women by the pool in bikinis, women walking around in bikinis. So it's just like, yes, we know the misconceptions, but in reality, and people will say, well, you're not going to see because whatever's been done that they don't want the media to see, you're not seeing. But from my point of view, both sides have been, it could be argued, this might be one of the safest World Cups ever because of the amount of few arrests, should I say, or because of there being not alcohol and people are not intoxicated and maybe behaving in the way that they should. So that possibly could be a positive. But lots of women as well from all over the world. I think I've not seen as many women in football stadiums as I have over here. So yeah, I'd say again, my experience on the whole has been positive.
And I saw a feature that was done quite recently where you're trying to see if you could get to 3 or possibly 4 games in a day in particular. Do you think like knowing the train system, the tube, like back in the UK helped you prepare for this?
Yeah, well, one of the things that makes this World Cup unique as well is that it's in one city. Let's say normally it's across countries where you have to fly. Here you don't have to fly anywhere. So the unique selling point for FIFA is you can see what they call multiple games in a day. During the group stage, there are 4 games in a day. You can be love drunk, Simon, for being too much in love with someone, and you can be food drunk as well when you eat too much of the one thing. I got football drunk. Trying to see 4 games in one day, I don't want to say almost killed me because I sound dramatic, but imagine walking around in the heat, and then I think we got like 12 trains and like 4 buses, 1 emergency Uber, but the amount of walking we did was the equivalent of 23 kilometers, which I think works out, to about half a marathon. And I'm telling you, by the end of it, my feet were aching. It's a lot of walking because I've got to say again, this is a desert. So you've got the metro, which is the underground transport system. But then some of the stadiums, you need to get a bus after you've got a train and then a 25, 35-minute walk. It's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I hope you'll be able to catch up some rest at some point, especially
Yes. But my calves and my legs are looking good for it, and I don't do them in the gym anyway. So that's the plus side.
Nice one. And I mean, what's the mood like from an England perspective? Is there quite optimism heading into the round of 16?
Yeah, anyone that follows the English national football team, England, will know back home, the press we either enter a tournament where we're going to win it or we're not going to win it. There's never like an in-between of, let's just go there and do our best. It's all or nothing. So you imagine after the Euro 2020 final, like there was massive anticipation to the World Cup, but the build up to it, the results haven't gone their way. So people didn't really quite know England are clicking just when they need to. But then we saw that disappointing 0-0 draw against the USA. But then you saw a lackluster half. So it's almost like no one quite knows where England are as a team. It's not like the Brazil and the Portugals that we've seen win the 2 opening group games and look dominant. So I'd say quite optimistic. Senegal in the last 16 is a team that England should beat. But if they lost, would anyone be really surprised? Perhaps not. So I would say it's kind of nerves and confidence at the same time. Like, if the two can mix.
I mean, you've shared some wonderful experiences, Nesta, about being on the ground there and everything. And I'm sure at the back of your mind, you might say, the next time this happens, Jamaica has to be there, because you can just imagine the support and everything.
Simon, the thing that hurts me most, and I've described it like this before, like the World Cup is like a good stew and you've got 32 different ingredients because they're the nations. So one of the most beautiful things is when you turn up to a stadium, yes, it might be Germany, Costa Rica last night, but you've got fans from everywhere who've got tickets. So you'll have Brazilian fans, Japanese fans, Uruguay, England. And I think I'm biased, but Jamaicans bring a certain uniqueness to whatever they do. It's funny, I met a guy called Sheldon Edwards, goes by the name of HD Cuts, and he's the barber to, the footballers. So I spoke to him just before he'd gone into the England camp and the Swiss camp to do their hair, and was just saying, imagine Jamaica being here with the vibes that they bring, and how much we love football. And like Simon, we've spoken about this before. We know. I remember you put out a list of all the players of Jamaican heritage going into this tournament. It's a dream team. It's an all-star. It's capable of winning the tournament. And it just feels like Jamaica need to get their act together, both the federation and kind of getting players early enough that Ivan Toney. They're not waiting until they're 28, 29, and England have said no before Jamaica says yes, because then you're trying to get people into a system like late on and trying to get them to click in one World Cup campaign, where if they've been playing for a few years together already, then you already have that chemistry. But we need Jamaica in the stew come 2026, the USA, Canada, and Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah, and just think about it for a moment, Nesta. You think about the Jamaican diaspora in the UK. In America and Canada, it's massive right there. So Jamaica's second favorite team already.
Yep. So I've been to Toronto myself, and you do get bits where it's like little Jamaica, where you get the Jamaican shops and the Caribbean food, and like you hear dancehall music, like wherever you go in the club, that's what it designates to. And we know, like, especially when it comes to Jamaican artists touring as well, like Canada is big on the map. So I'm intrigued. The one thing I wanted to know, and I haven't looked into this, and I was going to, is because we're normally in the qualifying group with those teams,
Yeah.
do they automatically qualify? So does that mean there's fewer teams, CONCACAF teams, going through, or does Jamaica have a better chance because then you don't have to face off against those host nations? But we've got 4 years to get it right. There's no excuse, man. There's no excuse either way.
Yeah, of course. So basically, there'll be three automatic spots for CONCACAF, and the fourth and fifth place teams will head to the playoffs. And of course, that's excluding USA, Canada, Mexico.
Okay.
So basically, it's Jamaica against the Caribbean against Central America. So massive challenge.
100%. And like I keep saying, 4 years from now, we shouldn't be really even looking at the squad now. We should be highlighting a few, I'd say 19, 20-year-olds to kind of bring in and say, look, in 4 years, you're 25, you're in your prime. Like, you are the guys that's going to get us there. You know what I mean? Like, Mikel Antonio is great, but he's coming towards the end of his career. There's nothing to say he's going to be still part of this in 4 years' time, for example.
Yeah. Well, my friend, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate your time. Enjoy the day, the round of 16 ahead. This is the point where teams start to drop like flies in the competition. So continue to enjoy it.
100%. It's worth saying as well, in Doha, there is a jerk shack, and I'm going to give it an 8 or 9 out of 10. It's good food. So there are Jamaicans here, not just me.
Wow, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, bro. Really, really appreciate it. And then we'll catch up throughout the course of the competition. Be safe.
Yes.